Hi everybody, it's time again for Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
On this episode, to go along with our April auto issue, we're going to talk about this year's 2014's top picks. Jake, what does it take for a car to be a top pick?
To be a top pick, I mean, it really has to be the best in its segment. So we test a lot of cars out here. There's a lot of good choices, but really when it comes down to if someone's going to go and they're looking for a midsize sedan, if they're looking for a sporty car, looking for a truck, what's the one to get? That's the top pick. In order to do it, you got to have a car that's reliable. So a lot of people look at our top picks and they're a little confused. They're like, how come this car, isn't here? But a lot of that has to be, we want to make sure that that car is going to hold together. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's not always the brand new car that just hit the market, because until it has it's been out there on the market and we know that things are going to hold together, we're not going to have it as a top pick. We also make sure it's safe too. The crash test, if it doesn't do well in crash tests, it's not going to be a top pick either.
Alrighty, so I think we're going to start the list. There's 10 of them. We're going to start the list with the more common cars, and then we'll kind of work our way into the niche stuff. So Gabe, what's our pick this year for the top midsize sedan?
It's the Honda Accord, this one, parked right here. And that car
Well, you don't have to buy just that one. You can go to a dealer and buy
exactly.
Only that one.
But it is this one because you want to avoid the EXL, because that complicated radio has reliability problems and it doesn't work as well as the regular radio. The Accord in general is a very well-rounded car. I mean, it really hits a sweet spot as a family sedan. It's quick enough, it's extremely fuel efficient, it's roomy enough, it rides well enough, it handles nimbly. It's a very well-rounded, capable car that can suit a wide range of audience. One thing I want to clarify though is that when you look at our stack of ratings in mid-size sedans, you're going to see the Toyota Camry Hybrid and the Toyota Camry V6. And among this segment,
they score higher than,
they score higher than the Honda Accord. And in this segment, 90% of these cars are bought as four-cylinder cars for $23,000, $25,000, as opposed to the $30,000 high-end hybrid or V6. Mm-hmm. So our top pick in that segment is always going to be that mainstream four-cylinder car.
Who makes the best four-cylinder mainstream version?
Exactly.
I agree. I often think about if I had to leave here and buy a car, what would I get? And if I had 25 grand, not that I'm planning to leave anytime
There's something you need to tell me, Tom?
One of the cars that always comes up on the list to me would be an Accord Sport. I think that's a really nice car. It's a little stiffer than the other cars, but for 25 grand, it's a lot of car.
Yeah, it's really interesting. If you look at the small car market, I mean, they've kind of raised up in price and equipment, and now your basic small car, I mean, they're $20,000, $21,000, $22,000. You're just hitting where these cars are. So for 23 grand, you could get a whole lot of car, and you don't even lose the fuel efficiency too. I mean, we got 30 miles per gallon in our testing.
Yep.
I mean, that for a small car is good, let alone something that's big and quiet and roomy like this.
It's got to be said that the Accord, this is a very competitive segment. There's a whole bunch of stuff right on the Accord's heels. There's the Camry, there's the Sonata, there's the Malibu, there's the Fusion. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Accord is the winner, but it's not a runaway. But actually, you mentioned smaller cars, compact cars. What if you wanted something smaller? What's our top pick for compact sedan?
Top pick for compact sedan? Well, the Subaru Impreza has always been a really good choice. I mean, this is a car that...
But it's not exactly something that I would expect. I would expect, a Civic or...
So the Impreza is really a funny car because, for the one, it's not a giant seller. In fact, it's really popular in the Northeast because it's got all-wheel drive standard. And for a while, you look at Subarus and they were almost, segregated just for those markets because you wind up giving up a lot for the all-wheel drive. You never had the fuel economy you would get in like a Civic or a Corolla. But somehow they've worked it out. Mm-hmm. Because now it's a very fuel efficient car. It rides nice. It's
relatively
roomy. It's relatively roomy.
It's got a good size backseat.
And you're not paying a whole lot more or losing the fuel economy for the all-wheel drive. So really, no matter where you are, it's a pretty nice choice.
Yeah. I mean, I've been driving our, we currently have an XV Crosstrek Hybrid, which we've talked about in a previous episode. But, the packaging is so good. You know, Subaru's really good at making cars you can see out of well. The controls are simple. You know, there's good room in the back seat. They are extremely practical cars. And I think that's where the Impreza.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very honest and unpretentious kind of a car. It's targeted to what people want. It gives you the room, the fuel efficiency, the all-wheel drive, the affordability, and that's what makes it so appealing.
Affordability with standard all-wheel drive.
Right.
And 27 miles per gallon with standard all-wheel drive, which is a pretty impressive.
Now we are talking
feat.
about, you know, the great things about dot picks, but I'm kind of on the other side of it. You know, I mean, I just want it to be known, and we talk about this a lot. Just because the car is a top pick doesn't mean it's the best car for everybody. And you look at the Impreza, one of the things that, you know, while it does all these things really well, one thing where Subaru really has kind of fallen back is in infotainment and electronics. And to a lot of people that's really important to them, you might not want to look at an Impreza. I mean, you look at something like an Elantra, like a Hyundai Elantra, or you look at a Kia Forte. They're packing in a lot of equipment. Or even look at what they're doing with the Dodge Dart now.
Oh yeah,
where they're putting
Chrysler's Uconnect system is terrific.
It's the best in the business, and they're putting that in the Dodge Dart. So if that's important to you, maybe you don't want to look at the Impreza. But for really the stuff that it does, the driving and all that, it's the best.
Yeah, two things. One is they recently unveiled the new Subaru Legacy. And that does show Subaru is continuing to try to improve their infotainment.
Are they going from the doubled in to the tripled in, or they got more knobs or a couple more
They
buttons?
worked in the reel-to-reel tape player really nicely.
Is that right? It's got high-speed dubbing from cassettes.
It's amazing. Auto reverse.
Yeah. Awesome.
The other thing is, like you said, it's an extraordinarily competitive market segment, compact sedans. The Hyundai Elantra, the Kia Forte are right on the heels of this car in our ratings. The Mazda 3, which we talked about a couple shows ago, is a terrific car. Just didn't quite score at this level. There is another Subaru in our top 10 picks.
Yes, there is, and that's the Forester, also playing in an extremely important market segment, small SUVs. And the Forester is so extremely functional. It's fuel efficient, it's roomy, you can see out of it, it handles well, it has simple, easy controls. And that's why it wins here. And again, I mean, it's almost like a rerun of the same thing with the connectivity. It may not be your particular choice if that's really important to you.
Right, the Forester actually does have a pretty clear margin in our scoring. It does beat the Mazda CX-5 and the RAV4 and the other and the Honda CR-V by a pretty good margin. But no, it's not the greatest car for connectivity. But the thing is so practical. I mean, we still own our 2014 Forester. It does not sit a day overnight in this parking lot. It is always out on the road.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you look immediately when you look at the Forester, it's really, you know, you look at so many cars that are really, you know, form first and then function later. I mean, the Forester is function first. I mean, it is a very square box. It's got lots of glass area around. It doesn't have the giant blind spots that we're seeing in almost everything now. Yep. It's nice to drive. You can just see out of it. It's quiet, comfy.
Yeah, I mean, and people love it. I mean, my sister is on her second one already.
Wow, I mean, it's also, so far they've been very, very reliable. It's, I believe, our most reliable car of 2014.
Yeah, but it's the most reliable car, yeah.
So there's a lot going for it in the Forester. Moving up a little bit in SUVs, what if I want a midsize SUV? What do I do?
What do you do? Well, the Hyundai Santa Fe
which is new to the list.
Which is new to the list, and it's a great choice. You know, it's funny. I mean, you know, you still get a lot of people saying Hyundai. I don't want to buy a Hyundai or a Kia. I mean, they are, you know, it's not 1985 anymore. It's not with the, you know, the $5,000.
The XL.
It's not the $5,000.
The terry cloth seats.
These
those are nice.
I mean, I had a friend of mine actually. I was driving our Hyundai Santa Fe, and he was like, I don't want a Hyundai. I want, you know, this car or that car. I'm like, just look inside. You know, you look inside what they've done in terms of, you know, the interior quality, everything about it, the room, the comfort, the luxury of it. I mean, it's really impressive, and it's a very serious choice in that market. You
named it actually as one of your favorite cars of last year.
Exactly. In a previous episode I did, and that was a big bombshell because I don't utter these words very often. And rightly so. I mean, Hyundais have usually, I mean, they give you a lot of content for the money, but typically ride, handling, everything has to do with chassis and suspension, was really left behind. And the exception was with this Santa Fe. They really nailed it straight out of the box with nice ride, quiet interior, good handling, completely unflappable. And it's an extremely functional yet stylish vehicle, and you get a 3-row SUV, but without the bulk and that's typical, and the fuel economy typically goes as part of that package.
This is another extremely competitive segment. In fact, to the point where the Dodge Durango did outscore the Santa Fe. A couple things going on. The Durango is kind of between a midsize and a large SUV, so it kind of hovers back and forth there. The other thing is we have no idea. This updated Durango, don't know if it's going to be reliable. Again, it's one of those things where a car can score high, but if we don't know its reliability, we're not going to make it a top pick. We're a little worried about the Durango, given that the Grand Cherokee had a really bad first year with the 2014 update.
Right.
There's also a ton of competition in this segment. The car that's beat out, I believe, is a Chevy Traverse, which they continue to get more reliable. It's a very nice and very pleasant vehicle to drive. There's also the new Toyota Highlander, which we talked about in the last podcast. And I bet when that thing's done scoring, it's going to give the Santa Fe a run for its money.
Yep, that's very, we expect that.
Yeah, well, it's bound to happen. Yeah. What if I'm a family guy and I want something a little bit more practical than a Santa Fe? What would I go for in a minivan?
Then you'd go for a Honda Odyssey. It's a no-brainer. I mean, it's probably also one of the best Hondas. It's in terms of ride, handling, quietness. The thing is the most functional vehicle that ever hit the planet. And yet, it's as far as minivans, I don't even think it's an embarrassment to be seen in an Odyssey. I mean, for a minivan, it's styled pretty nicely, and the interior has got all kinds of neat, smart, clever little things.
Like a vacuum cleaner.
If you spend $46,000,
a very expensive vacuum
which, by
cleaner.
the way, maybe you want to spend $35 and get a $20 plug-in.
That's
just throwing the idea out there.
But it's pretty cool, huh?
You could What's really cool is that it has a cool box, which you can put your drinks in. They'll keep them refrigerated. It's the best family car you can buy. I mean, if you don't need all-wheel drive, and actually someone picked up on that in an earlier episode, as we were talking about the Odyssey, and I've said, if you don't need all-wheel drive, a lot of people don't need all-wheel drive, and this is a terrific choice.
Not this winter.
Yeah, this has been a pretty bad winter. And actually, if you do need all-wheel drive in a minivan, you've got one choice. It's a Toyota Sienna.
The only game in town.
And the Sienna, though, is not as pleasant to drive as a Honda Odyssey. It just kind of falls behind. Yeah. Talking about more practicality, we always pick a green car of the year. Something that is out there, a shining example of fuel economy. What's our pick this year? Every year.
Again, every
other year.
It's that Toyota Prius. I mean, the Toyota Prius, when it comes down to, fuel efficiency and practicality, I mean, it's pretty good. It does a lot of things really well. I mean, you look at the value, you look at the resale value of the car, you look at the reliability of it. It's kind of like, I need a transportation device that's very, very efficient. It does what you want it to do very well.
Enthusiasts love to poop on the Prius.
It is not a car for enthusiasts. It is not a car that, that's really engaging to drive.
No,
absolutely not. If you're looking for something that's fun to drive, get something else.
He's not even calling it a car. It's a transportation device.
Exactly.
But for a lot of people, that's all they need.
Right.
If you're lucky, it's not a texting device.
Right.
Or a coffee drinking device.
And it's the most cost-effective transportation device out there. I mean, in terms of fuel economy, depreciation, and it's functional too.
Now I can make an argument though about if you're really going for green car, why not a Volt? Why not a Chevy Volt? Why not a Nissan Leaf?
Right. I mean, it's a good argument. I mean, I'd make that argument myself.
It sure is.
Yeah. And I mean, the Volt is a lot more expensive. It's it gets you the 35 miles on electric power, and then and then it's gas, and then it gets 32 miles per gallon. So if it fits a certain driving pattern, it works, but it doesn't have the all-round, always doing the same consistent thing like the Prius. Yeah, I mean, I could even make a case for a Nissan Leaf, which is completely pure electric. car. And but at this point, the pure electric still comes with its limitations of limited range and the long charging times.
Yeah, I mean, one way to think about it in terms of green car, is this the very greenest car? No, I mean, probably my bicycle is probably greener than that, but that's not a car.
You have a four-wheeled bicycle?
I do. I don't want to talk about it. I'll waste time in the podcast. But
you should take the training wheels off.
that's my problem. That's why I keep on losing the races. Shoot. No, but the way to think about this is that of the green vehicles out there, which car is going to be very green and it's really going to suit the most people? What's going to be most practical? What's going to be the best choice? And for a lot of people, yes, a Leaf doesn't, emit carbon emissions and all that stuff. But it's such a tiny sliver that's really going to suit. Because yes, I can't quite make it all the way home, when I'm driving the car. So,
but a Prius where you're selling 120, 140,000 a year, is that about where it's at?
Yeah.
It's making
that's a lot of green.
It's making a big impact on the environment. There's no question about that.
Yeah, so that explains that pick. Going perhaps to the polar opposite, something that's not so green but still extraordinarily useful, our top pick pickup truck.
And that's the Dodge Ram, which in a previous...
The Dodge is silent.
I mean, the Dodge is silent, right. Ram 1500.
That's right. It's not called the Dodge Ram, it's the Ram 1500.
Right, good luck with that. And as we said in the previous podcast, the Chevy Silverado may be the better truck, but the Ram is a better car. But that's only part of the story. At this point, the Silverado is too new for us to have gathered enough reliability data from our readers. Thank you for filling out those questionnaires. Yep. But we'll see what happens next year. For now, it's the Ram 1500.
For now is the point.
Well, for now is a big point.
For now is a big point. And yes, not to take anything from the Ram, that is a nice truck to drive. But yes, we got the Silverado. Which
I heard there's some other new truck that they might have redesigned with some crazy metal.
There's certain things going on. Yes, I mean, to get there, we've got the Silverado that does well. We're waiting for reliability information. The Dodge Ram, they are going to have a diesel coming out very soon. That's very exciting. So it's very fuel efficient. And yes, the aluminum truck.
The aluminum truck.
So
the beer can truck.
So there's Ford F-150s, where they have the titanium, a platinum, and now they're all aluminum.
That's right.
So I don't know, I'm trying to figure out the metal they're using. That is huge.
Yeah, and I actually, talking to some manufacturers, they expect that to be a game changer. They expect that to just blow past everything else.
We'll see. I mean, I think it's a game changer for the automotive industry. We might find in 10 years, we're going to be like, what? This car is still made of steel? That's crazy. They're behind the times. So that'll be interesting. Yeah,
the pickup truck, that's going to be that field's going to keep on moving. We do have a field, though, where, we've picked this car a couple years in a row, our top pick sports sedan.
The BMW 3 Series. And every generation of the 3 Series becomes, although it becomes a little less sporty, it becomes a better car all around, and it scores higher in our system. And
faint praise.
and that the 328i is, I mean, it's hard to argue against it. It still is the most fun to drive out of that whole segment. It's roomier than it used to be.
Well, no, I mean the Cadillac ATS is more fun to drive.
Okay.
But it's not as well-rounded.
Yeah,
it's nowhere.
I mean, it's pretty close.
I just need to argue. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay.
We're getting too far through a podcast without an argument.
It's hard to argue,
I was
but
wondering
let's
about that. Yeah. So we agree with ourselves, but let's argue.
Okay.
Anyway, it's extremely fuel efficient. It's roomier than it's ever been. The controls are a little complicated, but not awful. Like in the ATS. So
I'll give you that one.
Right. So it's a top pick, and it's available as an all-wheel drive.
It's also available with a diesel. The car parked behind us is our all-wheel drive diesel test car we've got now.
And it's available as a 320i as well. You're not going to miss much if you spend $5,000 less and you get the less powerful version.
Yeah, they call that the Jalopnik edition because you got no options, stick shift, sport pack. It is almost the closest thing to it. A true distilled BMW. In fact, Jake and I were talking with a BMW owner earlier today about her 99 323i, and how that car, it feels so sharp, it feels so
Yeah.
alive, and the new cars don't do that.
Well, I mean-
but they do have a big back seat, and they are extremely fuel efficient. 28 miles per gallon with a 328i with 0 to 60 times, under 7 seconds.
Well, I mean, this car right here in this 3 Series, it's basically a 5 Series of a few years ago. I mean, they've
Yep.
really grown up, and so it is a very nice driving car. It is very, I mean,
But there's a 4 Series now, so this is a 3.5 Series.
And the 4 Series is confusing too, because it was only going to be the 2 doors, but now there's the 4 Series
Grand
Coupe, which
Touring.
is stunning. The Grand Coupe's gorgeous. Again, there is a touch of a controversy with this car in that the Infiniti G37 scores higher, but we picked the 3 Series. Why, Gabe? Why?
Because the Infiniti G37 is a temporary kind of a car. It's not going to be available for a whole lot longer.
It's another Nissan zombie.
It is. It's just like
They
the
just come
the
back
Rogue,
from the
the
dead. You
old
think
Rogue,
it's
yeah.
gone. La.
The car's been redesigned. I mean, the replacement of the
Q50.
G37 is the Q50. And the G37 is still lingering out there for rental fleets and for a lower price point with reduced options. So it may not be the same G37 that we tested a few years ago.
we also looked at, I mean, there aren't many of them at the dealerships. They're still making it, but theoretically, it's almost like a leftover model. And by the way, if you see like a leftover 2002 5 Series, that would be a great sports sedan.
Oh,
So
that'd
I
be
just want
terrific.
to throw that out there too.
Yeah, that would be nice. Another terrific sports sedan is actually our pick for luxury sedan. What's that?
For luxury sedans.
Oh, Jake, do you not remember our pick for luxury sedan?
I know what my pick is.
But our pick is the Audi A6.
That would be a nice luxury sedan. Yeah, I mean the A6 is a really nice, nice luxurious car. And one thing about the big Audis is it handles really nice, steers nice, it's roomy, it's fuel efficient. We tested an A7 as well, which is kind of very similar, but a little more swoopy styling. Had the diesel, and you get that same diesel in the A6. Very fuel efficient. The A7, we don't have the reliability data, especially on that diesel yet, and that probably would have been the car.
No,
It's
actually,
pretty
it wouldn't.
expensive.
It wouldn't. The A6 is a fantastic car. The Mercedes-Benz E250 did outscore that because that's our second scoring car behind our last top pick,
Again,
which we'll get to in a moment.
Diesel.
Diesel. Yeah, another high-scoring diesel. We don't know if that diesel is going to be reliable yet.
Right.
Mercedes.
It's a new diesel. It's different than previous diesels, and but the regular E-Class, the E350, is reliable. It's recommended. I mean, it doesn't score as well as the gas A6, and therefore the A6 gets a top pick.
Which is no shame.
No shame at all. Yeah, I mean that car is a lovely car. It's just a handsome car. It's roomy. It drives beautifully. And I wouldn't mind commuting every day in that car.
You probably wouldn't mind commuting every day either in our last top pick. Our last top pick, and what I'm betting is Jake's favorite luxury car.
That's actually, to be clear on it, it's my favorite luxury car. It's my favorite green car, and it's the best car we've tested.
And what is that car?
The Tesla Model S.
It's pretty gutsy, though, to be naming that car to our top 10 list. I mean, it's not a manufacturer that's been out very long, and
Yeah, it's a car that we have reliability data on, and it has been reliable. We have hundreds of customers who have told us.
600s.
Yeah, 600 vehicles, and we have data on the car. We've put it through our testing, and it works really, really well. It's roomy, it's comfortable, it's fuel efficient, it's green. It's got the best technology we've seen in anything. So it's a pretty amazing car.
It is. I mean, speaking of game changer, that is a game changer.
Right.
I mean, that car is such a remarkable car. It really works. I mean, it drives beautifully. It looks nice. And you are almost at a point that you eliminated all the barriers of electric cars with the longest range for an electric car, with ways to charge the car quickly. Those superchargers are sprouting up all over the place. So there is very, very little compromise here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like a golf cart. I wish it was cheaper, but as you typically do with luxury items, wish it had more active safety stuff. Wish it had forward collision warning or blind spot or stuff like that. But otherwise, it's a very, very good car, and it's to the point where other people are, I mentioned Tesla is a new brand, but the brand perception. We just did a brand perception study. It's, I believe, in the top 5.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this is a vehicle manufacturer that really nobody heard of just a few years ago. And now it's almost the top of...
Among brands like Chevy and Ford, brands that have been around since before the wheel was round.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how it's... I mean, you look at some other auto manufacturers that try to get into there, and it's like, I don't know, Daewoo was around for 6 years before anyone noticed. But yeah, they hit the ground running, and it's quite amazing. It's made a huge impact on the industry.
And they've been doing a pretty good job of keeping themselves in the headlines.
Yeah, Tesla always, if Elon Musk isn't starting a Twitter war with someone, they're on the news somewhere or another.
Well, some of that news has not been good stuff, too.
No, they're the fires, and I mean, it's also, you have a top pick here of a car with a big, expensive battery that sometimes seems to catch fire. Well, you don't know how long it's going to last. Or
we have over 600 customers who have given us data on their car. We're not seeing a bunch of problems with this car at all. In fact, this car has been reliable. Not a single problem with the electric drivetrain or the battery at all. So there have been some cases where the thing's been impaled with something off the highway. Looks like in that case there's a slow incineration of the vehicle. That is going to be investigated, so we're going to see what goes on with that. But the car has been reliable on its own, so we are recommending and making a top pick.
I mean, it is a very impressive car. You can also argue things like gasoline cars catch fire too.
Well, I mean, probably hundreds of thousands of Camrys have caught in fire, and we're not going to stop recommending them based on that. So we're going to have to really see what goes on down the road and see if there's an issue. And it was really interesting with the recall that wasn't a recall. So our car was actually raised in overnight, and they actually brought the car a little higher off the ground to stop some of these issues going on. So
right. I mean, the car has air suspension, so it lowers itself at high speeds, and that's pretty much where these incidents have occurred on a highway when some foreign object penetrated the battery.
Yeah, those batteries also, especially when you get an 85 kilowatt car like ours, they have a very long warranty, don't they? The battery warranty is 8 years, unlimited miles or something like that.
I think it is. Yeah.
I mean, so there's a lot of effort going into this, but like you said, there'll be more. They'll research why those fires are happening. Otherwise, though, they are rare, and it's a very impressive car. That wraps up our list. There is a car where I'm sure someone's going to ask, where is it on this list? And that's a Chevy Impala. Mm-hmm. Where is it, Gabe? What did you do with the Impala?
I've been with the Impala for a week now, and I can reaffirm...
Did you get out of all the Range Rovers? Is that what happened?
And I can reaffirm that it's a really, really nice car. And I mean, it's quiet. It drives just like a luxury car. The thing is, the category where it's at, that segment is not really a huge segment in the market. Large sedans is not a huge segment, and we don't have a category that we assign a top pick in that category.
We also don't know if it's going to be reliable yet.
Right. First
year car, so if it becomes reliable, hopefully it does become reliable. We'll see what happens next year. These categories change and shift a bit from year to year.
Got to make it interesting.
That's right. Have something to talk about in next year's podcast.
Yep.
What I also want to do is I want to answer a couple questions we got from Talking Cars 23. I want to get to those. Actually, you know what? Before I get to those, is there a car in this list that you wish? Is there a car you wish made the list that isn't on it?
Car that we wish made the list.
You personally?
Me personally?
Yeah. What car do you wish was on this top 10 list? But it's
Come on,
here.
it's the FRS.
It's the FRS.
I was thinking my MR2 actually. I think the MR2 would be really nice there, but then I have to wish they actually made one. I don't know. I mean, I think the FRS? Nah. I mean, it would be nice to have a sports car on the list, and quite honestly, the Boxster really could be on the list if we wanted to have the top picks of 11 or so. That's a fun car, and that really does score really high.
How about you, Gabe?
Yeah, I would have no problem putting the Boxster on that list. It has of course, limited appeal. It's rather expensive at $60,000. But as a sports car, it just is a phenomenal kind of a car.
The car I wish was on the list and has been on the list for years and years and years is the Mazda Miata. It's just a terrific car. It is fun and reliable and practical, which is a combination you don't usually
So
get.
here's my question about the Mazda Miata. Do people actually buy new ones, or they just kind of hand them around the old ones? Because the thing about the Miata is it's been so good for so long. And if you're just looking for a car for sunny days, why would you go out and buy a new one? Why don't you buy a 3-year-old one that's $12,000?
Well, you don't even need to buy. I went through this. Well, they're more than that, but you don't need to buy. You're absolutely right. There's so many of them out there that people only drove in the summer. They took care of it. It was like another pet of theirs. It's.
If Mazda's listening right now, they should do timeshare. Timeshare of
Oh,
Miatas.
that'd be
and you
ingenious.
just kind of like, oh, it's my week.
You ship it north in the summer. Let me get this right. You ship it north in the summer. You ship it south in the winter.
Yeah.
That'd be terrific.
Yeah, I mean, Zipcar should buy a bunch of those, or Cars to Go.
Build them all with brown leather, please, because that I'll feel.
Moving on.
No, moving on. The other car I wish was on the list was the Jeep Grand Cherokee. I think the Jeep is a very pleasant, very nice car. Again, not quite scoring high enough, and also really not quite reliable enough. But otherwise, I think it's a vehicle that hits on a lot of notes. Some questions we got. Still enjoying this great show. I think I'm all caught up with all the episodes now. Wow. Thank you for that. I have a next family car dilemma. Hyundai Genesis, the 2012 iteration, versus a Toyota Sienna in Minnesota. Would Genesis with Blizzaks in winter be a suitable 4-person family hauler? The kids are 2 and 4 years old. Other alternatives, the 2012 Sonata GLS. Please let me know your expert CR opinion. Gabe.
Oh, go with a Sienna. No question about it. I mean, it may not be the most exciting car, but...
Nor is a Genesis.
Didn't I hear a Sienna there?
Yeah, you did, but I'm saying compared to his alternative. Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay. So in Minnesota with the kids, the Sienna. And if you really want the Genesis, wait for the next redesigned Genesis. The V6 is going to be available with all-wheel drive. And anecdotally, we've heard that Genesis in the snow, the current Genesis, is really not a good mix.
Oh, no,
it's
we
pretty hopeless.
know personally. Do people still get dictionaries? Because if you looked in a printed
Genesis is the
watch.
Bible, not the dictionary.
Yes.
Nicely done. If you look in the dictionary under sled, is a picture of a Genesis in the winter. It's not.
I mean,
you need snow tires.
To be fair, if you're in Minnesota, rear-wheel drive, you got to get front. Well, front-wheel drive would be fine too. But yeah, rear-wheel drive, and that was kind of the big problem with the Genesis.
Yeah.
I mean, in that market, to not have all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive, just you can't even be on the map really.
Yeah, this person mentions a Sonata as an alternative. It's not really comparable. Go with an all-wheel drive Sienna. In this case. Next.
And you should know that I spent the winter in Wisconsin winter, and it's pretty similar to Minnesota. So take our advice.
There we go. Next question. Hi guys, great show. Make it longer, please. Well, we'll see how long this one's going. Question, which 7-passenger SUV would you select? Durango, Highlander, Sequoia, or wait for the new Tahoe because Chevy's making good products now? Also, do you think Durango will be offered in diesel anytime soon? Towing not major requirement, but hauling 7 passengers is, so the third row is important. We just talked about a really good 7-passenger SUV, if I remember right.
I believe so.
If you need to sit in the third row...
it's not a good choice.
Well, if you need to sit in it often enough, then probably a Chevy Traverse is a better choice.
Yeah, Traverse is a better choice. A Durango has more room in the back, but like we've talked about, we don't know if it's going to be reliable. Right. I think the chances of a diesel Durango are extremely low. That Dodge doesn't know what they're doing with the Durango because they ought to have a 3-row Jeep, basically, and that's what the Durango's doing. So, yeah, I think a Traverse is probably your pick.
You can get a minivan too.
A minivan. That's true. They didn't mention needing all-wheel drive. So, if you
get a
really,
Sienna.
or yeah, that's right. If you really need 3 rows, a minivan's the way to go. Last question, and then a little tip. Any idea when you guys will be looking at the new 2015 Volvo V60? I know that it's new to the US, but all the first looks seem to focus on the T5 Drive-E front-wheel drive. I'm sure that's what Volvo's pushing on everyone because they're proud of their new 2-liter, but that does not compare with all-wheel drive yet. What are we doing, Gabe?
Right.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
We're stuck in this situation.
We're stuck. I mean, the V60 is an interesting wagon. It's basically a wagon version of the S60, but Volvo's timing is a little peculiar here because first the car comes, then the powertrain comes.
You do get an engine. if you get all-wheel drive, they are giving you an engine.
Right. You get an old engine that's going to last until the fall. In the fall, it gets the all-wheel drive, gets the 2-liter turbo with the 8-speed automatic, and that's the interesting powertrain. Volvo is moving away from their 5 and 6 cylinders, and they're just going to have turbocharged 4-cylinder engines. One of them is going to be 240 horsepower, the other is 300, which is interesting because it has a turbo and supercharger at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
But we're going to wait for that
We're going to wait.
because we want to test an all-wheel drive car compared to our all-road, compared to that sort of stuff. So
Right.
we're going to wait for the newer engines. One thing we didn't wait for, and the last thing I want to leave this podcast with, is we bought ourselves a Maserati Ghibli.
We did.
We did. We now for the first time, Maserati is advertising in the Super Bowl, so it's kind of
In a
making
weird
its way,
as hell ad. What the hell was that?
making
Oh
its
my
way into
God.
the American psyche, and finally they have a car that's lower priced. It's in the 80 somethings instead of the 120
It's
something.
pocket
Right.
change.
It's based on the Chrysler 300
With a Ferrari engine.
with a Ferrari engine, so it should be interesting. Why not?
Yeah, the thing that sucks is lousy Smarch weather means that we've got this Maserati on summer tires we can't drive. We've got this 911 we can't drive. We've got this Corvette we can't drive. We have this Chevy SS that we haven't been able to resist driving, but we shouldn't be driving.
We've been driving them, but
Very careful.
very carefully. We're not driving the way these cars really want to be driven, and that's too bad.
Which is a shame because we really want to drive these cars.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Talking Cars. As always, we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.